Hey friends, how's it going? Well, welcome back. We're out here in the kitchen. It's just too hot to be in the garage. That's right, we're taking a break. It's 97 degrees out there and I'm not interested in sitting in the hot garage no matter how much I love it. I'll probably be out there later tonight and enjoying the cool evening. But however, for this week we are in the kitchen. Now we're going to be doing something that some of you actually mentioned that you would like to see. Yeah, some of you have asked to see the kitchen and some parts of the apartment and maybe talk about some of the appliances that I use, that I enjoy, that are, well, I guess you could say my collection, but they are functioning pieces and they are, well, things I enjoy and I use every day. People ask, how can you do that? That sounds expensive. Well, actually, it's not. And I'll get into it. Now I'm going to first tell you guys a little about the refrigerator. A little history, a little backstory, and how we got to this point in 1935. So, a lot of people I talk to, they have a very limited understanding about the history of domestic refrigeration. That's not their fault entirely. Nobody talks about it. We take a lot of these things for granted. We do. We've all grown up with a refrigerator in our homes. Whether it's from the 1980s or the 1990s or a contemporary one that's a smart refrigerator that'll tell you when to buy butter or whatever. Now, I can't say I'm someone who's going to want one of those things. I'm very capable of opening the door and seeing what I don't have anymore and figuring out what's past its prime. But the history of the refrigerator is an interesting one, and I'm going to touch upon it in this video. So back as early as the early 1920s, over 100 years ago now, gosh, I can't even say 100 years ago. Oh my goodness. Refrigerators started becoming a luxury item. Now, at that time, cars and a lot of convenient things were very much a luxury item. They were very expensive and only the 1% could afford these things. Now, seeing an advertisement in National Geographic from, say, 1920-21, you'll see refrigerators offered by Frigidaire or Kelvinator or Crosley or any of these other companies that started manufacturing, refrigerators. And people call them ice boxes because that's just a slang from the earlier days when it was a wooden box lined with either galvanized steel or porcelainized steel, nice and clean and white with a nice little wire rack in there and then a shelf above that you kept your ice block in. And as that melted, you had a channel for the runoff. It would go to a collection pan. That's interesting. My grandmother, she's 97 now, but she told me once that it was her job to watch the level of the drip pan, and it was her job to say, hey, it's getting too full. And so her mom, my great-grandma, would have pitched the water and put it back in there and let it continue to drip. She remembers seeing the Iceman come into the house, and he, had a denim shirt and jeans and workwear and then this rubber shawl thing that he would have on his shoulder, and he'd have the block of ice with the ice tongs. She remembered that. She told me about that. I've seen it in plenty of old movies. But it's interesting, though. That was all in the 30s. My grandma grew up through the 30s, and she was born in 29. But this machine here is a product of a lot of development. Now, the early machines that were made by other companies used a compressor motor that was belt driven. A lot of early refrigeration machines were a belt drive, and belts can wear out and they can break, and that was a problem. Now, a lot of the refrigerants used prior to this machine were very toxic. I'm not saying this one's not, but I'll get to that later. But the very first refrigerants were a lot of ammonias and other caustic type of chemicals. They weren't great. They were fantastic as long as they were working. And we've all heard the stories of how a refrigerator will fail and then it will somehow mysteriously off gas into the house and through the kitchen and into the bedrooms and night family, right? Yeah, we've heard those stories and how dangerous refrigeration was in the early days. Now that goes to say with a lot of early inventions that now we take for granted because we've perfected them. But the belt drive compressors were still being used into the 1930s by, Kelvinator and Crosley and other manufacturers, because GE, by 1927, after a lot of research and development, they rolled out the domestic refrigeration machine, which was DR, and we eventually knew it as the monitor top refrigerator, and I believe they used that name as early as 1930. So in 27 it was the domestic refrigerator, and people thought, oh, that round cylinder type of compressor motor reminds them of a turret. And so GE says, yeah, it's like the it's like the turret on the USS Monitor, the ironclad of Civil War fame. And so they went with it, and they called it the monitor top, I believe, as early as 1930-31, right around there. But the earlier models had the exposed coils and a fancy nickel alloy type of trim around the borders of the corners and around the door. They had these big spear-like hinges and everything. Beautiful machines, actually. I'll just drop a picture in there so you can see what I'm talking about. That's your first generation monitor top refrigerator. But as the machine was developed and progressed over the course of 10 years, they perfected the mechanism. Now, the mechanism is a compressor motor that's hermetically sealed. It's self-oiling, everything. It's encased in oil. That behind this wall of metal with the stamped refrigeration tubes in there is a cast iron thing with a motor in it, with windings and everything, and it's all designed to operate flawlessly. Now, this machine is charged not with R12 Freon, it's actually SO2 gas, which is sulfur dioxide. And GE used sulfur dioxide originally until 1933. They tried out methylformate, and then eventually they went back to SO2 gas in 1935, and that was the refrigerant up until 1937 when they decided to stop manufacturing this style of refrigerator, because as early as 1933 they started offering flat top models because a lot of homemakers or housewives, they wanted to have space on top to put stuff like either a cake tin or any other kitchen appliance, or maybe a collection of cookbooks or whatnot. So they wanted to have the space. They wanted the real estate on top of the fridge and not have a compressor motor. Now, the scientists and the engineers at GE Laboratories felt that this was the ideal spot, because why would you put something that generates heat underneath the box that you're trying to keep cool? Makes sense. That means this is very economical to run. It runs for about 3 to 4 minutes, and off time is about maybe anywhere from 14 to 20 minutes depending on the temperature in your kitchen. So it's actually very efficient. Very efficient. And I don't practically pay for this thing to run. I think my computer actually costs more money to operate. But this thing is an amazing thing. Check this out. So this is the inside here. You have your evaporator. Okay, it gets icy in there because there's moisture that circulates through the cabinet, and it collects on the evaporator, and it collects and turns into ice. Now you have to defrost that once in a while. About once a month is where I defrost it. I found the chiller tray, the glass chiller tray. It has a GE swirl on there. It says chiller. You can put your butter and other poultry or lunch meats and stuff in there to keep meat nice and cold. It did come with this old ice tray, and of course it's got ice in it. See, 1930s ice, guys, right? How do you get the ice out of this? Well, you turn it upside down and run hot water under it, and then it thaws out a little bit. Pop it off, and you just take the cubes right out. Yeah, very simple. Very simple. You got crispers down here. You got eggs, And then, of course, we got to keep our apples nice and cold. And then here's another fun piece. Original glass water bottle. This one's from about 1936. This is 1 year later. The earlier ones I'm probably going to get one, but this one I have, and it works just great. And it's nice and cold. It's frosty. Nice. Oh yeah. On a hot day, just nothing better. But yeah, this is Also, the original sticker. The original door sticker on this, symbol of, let's see, it says symbol of research, mark of dependability, GE. And it has a whole list of instructions of how to defrost it and all the things that you can keep in mind. Also the warranty, everything. Now, the warranty on these things back in those days was about 5 years. A 5-year warranty, and you could actually extend that warranty if you wanted to pay a little extra. Now, by 1935, the CK models came out, and that was the zenith of the hermetically sealed compressor motor. Anybody that buys one of these things will swear by it. It's really the most dependable compressor motor you ever will buy. It's hermetically sealed, cased in cast iron. I mean, it was, they made the best machine they ever did. Here, this thing is 91 years old and it's still going. Still doing the job that it was designed to do. Now, I got it from a gentleman who had an appliance store over in Pasadena, and it was long since closed, but he was getting ready to sell the building. And driving by this place every time coming back from work, I saw this monitor top sitting in the window with a phone number. So I called it and I asked about it, and we came to an agreeable price. And I had a 1940 GE here at one time, and a friend of mine wanted it, so I said, tell you what, buy this and I'll go buy the monitor top. He's like, perfect. So we worked it out that way. It worked out perfect. So I brought this one home, and it's been plugged in and working since 2011. I know. And I just keep defrosting it and keeping it happy, keeping it clean. And it's just amazing. It really is. It truly is amazing to have a refrigerator that's 91 years old, still operational. I know. Like, well, Rob, what happens if it stops working? We're like, well, I have another one in the garage. I have a 1929 one with the exposed coils. Yeah, I have a DR. That's right. It's earlier and it works. Well, it's a little bit not working right now, but it's not going to take too much to get it happy again. But yes, this is what made eating safe again, and that was a slogan that GE used in the 30s. It says, the monitor top refrigerator makes it safe to eat, and the whole idea is that you could keep food around between 35 and 40 degrees, which is colder than any conventional ice box. That's right. And the other thing is, how did people buy these during the Depression? That's a good question. Well, you had about anywhere to 20-25% unemployment between 1933 and 1936, give or take. But the rest of the population could afford such a thing. And GE wanted everyone to have one of these. So they decided to offer you a brand new refrigerator with a very little down payment, and then the rest they took out of your electric bill. So they would just tag on a little extra to your monthly bill, and it would help pay for the refrigerator. They had the installment plan, I guess you could say. And they had ways for people to own and use one of these. And also, for those who know a little bit more history about the GE monitor top, there was a famous showroom and sales floor in New York. He had at least, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 stores, but Rex Cole was a very well-known retailer in New York. And when he discovered the GE monitor top refrigerator, he went nuts, and he opened several stores just selling the monitor top refrigerator. In fact, some people have GEs that have a label that says Rex Cole, New York. That's right. In a lot of apartments in New York, Manhattan and around local areas there, would furnish their apartments with a brand new GE refrigerator to be appealing to potential tenants. And they would have a sign on the side of their building, and I've seen pictures of this. It says refrigeration by Rex Cole. So he got advertising and also advertised for GE and stuff like that. But it was a big deal. These were a big deal. Now it's fun because, excuse me, nose itches a little bit. We see these advertisements of a happy, proud husband giving a monitor top refrigerator to the family for Christmas, and you see the mom with a blindfold on, and then she's like, oh my goodness, I got a new refrigerator. Oh, how wonderful. And we all think that's just chauvinistic and very typical of that time. Well, we tend to forget just what an invention this was. To buy a brand new refrigerator in the 1930s, that was very expensive. that is not cheap. And this was a revolutionary thing for a household. I mean, it was just amazing because so many women at that time would go to market every day. They would get up and do the things and get the kids off to school, and then they would go to market and prepare things for dinner or for all the meals for the rest of the week. Well, they could do that because they had a refrigerator. They could take the things home, put it in there, and keep them for several more days than every day. So it was actually a very practical type of thing to have in the house, and it was very much loved and used by everybody at that time. So we've taken a lot of things for granted today. We do. But when you have something from the first generation of domestic refrigeration, then it kind of brings things around, and you really realize that we've come a long way, but we've also gone astray because this thing is still working while new ones are only good for maybe 5 or so years, and they crap out just outside of the warranty. But it's kind of crazy. It is. But GE probably had no idea that this machine would still be going this far into the future. There's a famous ad from about 1934-35 that it's an illustration of Father Time with his sickle and his like hourglass, and he's sitting there scratching his head looking at this beautiful white GE monitor top refrigerator. So I suppose they did design it with a infinite lifetime warranty, if you will. They designed it to work as long as possibly they could within the engineering parameters of their understanding and technology of that time. And I'm sure anyone who actually assembled and made these to know that they are still working today in the 21st century, that's a pat on the back if you ask me. Sadly, such a major brand such as General Electric is, they're not the same. They haven't made an appliance worth their money in a very long time, probably since the 1980s. In fact, they were still manufacturing their irons, their GE brand irons, in Ontario, California, just 40 minutes away from here. They had the Ontario, California plant, and they also one in Schenectady, New York. That's right. So if you get an old iron and it says Ontario, California, that's where it was. And I've seen the factory. It's still there, but they closed it in the early 1980s. Yeah, that's when that plant got closed, and now everything's overseas. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It's the way of the world these days. But, corporations realize that they can make something, they could spend less money, make it, to break within a certain amount of time. They could engineer it to obsolescence. So they could engineer it to last only so long, and then that would mean that you had to buy another one sooner than later. And they look at this stuff as over-engineered. Over-engineered. Sure, is it over-engineered? Absolutely, but that's why it's still around. That's why it's still around, doing the thing that it's doing, and it has done for almost 100 years. I mean, yes, it does have SO2 gas, original charge from 1935. Now, am I worried about that failing and causing me distress? No, because I know how to defrost a refrigerator. A lot of people over the course of history, since these things were invented, have used a lot of blunt objects to defrost a refrigerator. There's no science behind it. You turn it off, and then the box temp rises just enough to cause the frost on the evaporator to melt into that glass tray right below it. And overnight, it drains and thaws out and falls into that tray, and then you just dump it off in the sink, wipe it down, put it back, wipe down the evaporator, and you turn the machine back on. It's that simple. You don't need to use any boiling water. You don't need to use any ice picks or anything. Because when the temperature in the refrigerator rises to about 50, 55 degrees overnight, when the compressor's not running anymore, that's still a safe temperature to keep your food at. It is. That's where an ice box would keep its food at. But it's only for overnight. You're not going to have any spoilage overnight. So when it's done, you wipe it all out, dump out the water, put it back together, and you turn it on, and then it brings the box temperature back down to 35, 40 degrees. And that's ideal, really, for one of these machines. And the other misconception is that these things are energy hogs. They're not. This is the most efficient design ever created, friends. With the compressor motor on top, it's not turning on and off a lot because it's not warming up the very thing it's trying to keep cool. So that's something to keep in mind. And it's only turning on for 3 to 4 minutes and off for almost 20 minutes, depending on the temperature in the room. So very efficient. And why would anyone want to buy an appliance that used a lot of energy? People were very conscious of that thing at that time too. Nobody says, well, we have plenty of money to pay for the electricity bill. No, everyone was struggling, especially during the Depression. Come on now. That's just crazy talk. But this machine is my refrigerator. It's not a prop. It's my fridge. This is what I buy my food, and I put my food in that. Now, I will say, for those who may be entertaining or contemplating buying an antique refrigerator, that evaporator does not keep food. Well, it doesn't keep the. It's capable of freezing ice or water. It makes ice. It can keep certain frozen foods solid and hard, but ice cream takes a little bit colder to keep it from melting. So I've kept ice cream in there, and it melts. It turns into a milkshake. So it's not cold enough, and there's no door on it to keep it sealed to keep it in an environment where ice cream won't melt. So I would say if you are someone who uses a lot of frozen food products, if you have a lot of frozen dinners and things of that nature, that is not the refrigerator for you. Not at all. I'm going to say that right now, because if you are more into preparing fresh food, not a lot of frozen food, then this will work for you. That's the lifestyle of that era, because frozen food didn't come around until late 1930s and early 1940s, when they were even very modest at best at that time. But Birds Eye perfected flash freezing, and that's when frozen foods really became a thing. But you're buying fresh food, you're keeping it for a couple of days and enjoying the leftovers. And there's not a lot of room in here, so it encourages you to eat what's in there and not let it die in the corner and get forgotten. It's true. It's true. So these things are actually pretty economical when you think about it. They don't encourage long-term food storage. But if you just want something to make ice for a glass of water or a beverage of your choice, and you go take a ride out to the ice cream parlor and get some ice cream, or you buy a carton of ice cream and you plan that for dessert and you keep it in there. It will keep it cold enough where it will start to soften while you have your dinner. Yeah, exactly. And then when you're ready for ice cream and you polish off the whole carton amongst your friends, it works out. You know how to do it. You adjust to the fridge and not the other way around. That's right. But that's my word of advice if anyone's entertaining the idea of a purchase of a 90-plus-year-old refrigerator. That's right. But anyways, that's it for me today, guys. But hey, I wanted to pitch an idea for you guys. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking about the channel, and I like it. I like what we have. I like our channel. This is a great spot, and I continue to get positive messages and on Facebook and everything. And I'm sorry if anybody sends me an email. I know I've posted my email address, and I don't often check my personal email address there too often, but I do get a lot of messages on Facebook. So I want to thank you guys for your kind comments and your that you enjoy the show, that you get something out of it. It makes me very happy. It really does. But there's things I like to talk about, and I like to just kind of rant about. Yeah, because we all can rant about or kind of connect with that. We can rant about certain things that we just have to endure every day. So I'm thinking of starting a segment on this channel here where I can just rant about something that's bothering all of us. whatever topical news or whatever life things, I can rant about it. So I'm thinking of doing a segment on this channel and each episode where I do a little rant segment, and it will be funny, and that's the whole idea. It's just to be funny and get a good laugh. It's not anything real serious. I mean, you know me, I don't take a whole lot of things very seriously, except for these fun things. But that's me. Well, thanks again, guys, for stopping by. Leave me a comment what you think about the segment I proposed. And also, I'd like to hear from you if you like this content about this cool refrigerator. Thanks again for stopping by. And, just remember, I'm only doing this for you guys. That's right. So share it with your friends, like and subscribe, and all that expected messaging. I'll see you next week, and we'll have more things to share, and I'll be surprised. I don't think I have anything coming right now, lantern-wise, but we'll find something to share and hopefully be in the garage by next Thursday. All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Sit, boo-boo, sit. Good dog.